bags where horror lies.
Hey guys, Rob from Georgia here with you this Wednesday evening, and I am your host for Body Bags. And tonight, I'm just going to spend a couple minutes talking about one of my most favorite films from the 1950s. It is a beloved, cherished classic of mine, and I love this movie through and through. I'm of course talking about The Thing from Another World, 1951. It stars Kenneth, Tobey, Margaret Sheridan, James Arness as the creature. Of course, he disowned his part in this, which is a shame, and he is a fabulous monster. And if you've never seen The Thing, now this is the first piece, or the first take from John C. Campbell's book, or novella, short story, Who Goes There, in 1938. And this is the first real attempt to cinematically bring this film to life. Later on in 1982, of course, we know John Carpenter will bring it to life once again, a much better reinterpretation of the original material. And later in 11, of course, we'll see The Thing once again, more of a forensic view of this same source material. But with The Thing from Another World, of course, please forgive me if it is, of course, a Howard Hawks production, and it is directed by Nyby. Kenneth Tobey stars with Margaret Sheridan, of course, James Arness. And again, as I've said, this is the first attempt to bring John C. Campbell's work to life. And one of the reasons why I love this movie so much, though, is it represents two major pieces of time. The great explorations of Antarctica, late 19th century, probably right to the end of World War I, in which case you'll have the likes of Lovecraft and Edgar Allan Poe, and really just the idea of the unknowable, what lies within that continent, will just grip the fascination of a lot of writers and pulp writers of the day, and horror stories or whatnot, science fiction pieces. And The Thing from Another World not only pulls from this notion, this idea, somewhat, but also Cold War politics plays a major part, as the film springs from the 1950s, and we are, of course, neck deep in the Cold War. And so if we're not really thinking about real flying saucers, we're thinking about other exterior threats, mainly communism. But the reason why this film is a beloved classic favorite of mine, and this is, of course, my UK copy, and what makes this very special to me is it has 3 cuts of the film. It has the older, sort of roughed up black and white, but with John Carpenter's commentary on it, which is absolutely just amazing. And it also has an unauthorized color edition, and it also has a remastered black and white edition. So 3 cuts of the film, and this is why I shop across the pond. This is why I'm reaching free. But The Thing from Another World, if you listen to John's commentary, one of the things he speaks to, and I gravitate to as a viewer, is how, well, when we're talking about this film, we all know, or maybe not, the great argument in terms of who really deserved credit for directing this piece, Nyby or Howard Hawks. This is like Poltergeist discussion, and but this has Howard Hawks's touch, much like Steven Spielberg on Poltergeist, all over the film. And one of the things is this notion of getting as many people into one frame as possible, and yet every person has a major role in that frame, or the sequence of frames, the shot, the scene that is developing. I think at one point he'll have 17 of the characters in one shot. A lot of times it's anywhere from 10 to 12, maybe 10 to 13, 6 to 7 or 8. rarely do you see the two in one frame shot. Usually Kenneth, Tobey, and Margaret Sheridan, of course, are getting that shot. But I don't know what it is, but when you're involved in a film like this, especially when it's The Thing, and we're watching The Thing, right? And it's a lot different, than, of course, than what we get from John Carpenter's piece, which is a much better look into the original material. They weren't able to really get into John Campbell's work the way that they ought to have been able to, or wanted to. Really, the lack of ability to. You have a shape-shifting creature that is able to imitate and to bring that to life in the 50s, and it's just not going to happen. And so what we have here on film is really, I guess maybe an original Alien piece. You know, it's the man in the monster suit. And James Arness is just fantastic in this role. And, but I guess, I feel like I'm rambling. If you've never seen the movie, basically the plot, unlike the original source material, has our heroes, our Air Force. The military really is part of the heroes in this. And the scientists are really those who are endangering humanity with their recklessness to a degree. Our military heroes are, of course, stationed in Anchorage, Alaska. They get the call from Carrington, who is a top-notch scientist up in the North Pole, that we have an issue up here we need help with. They're not talking flying saucers at this point. And, of course, Kenneth Tobey, who plays the lead on this expedition, this military expedition to go give help, he's got a vested interest in this because the girl he has his eyes set on, of course, she's up there. And so he goes real quick to get the okay from the officers above, the chain of command or whatever, to get a group together, and takes along with him a news reporter to go with, who's looking for a story. And so, of course, basically, once they get up there, then you go out to the site of the saucer. You have that great, awesome scene. Of course, everyone in shot where, hey, we've got a flying saucer. And then the attempt to unearth it, which fails because of the thermite they're using catches the alloy on fire, and the saucer goes up. And but they find one of the members of the saucer, perhaps one of the members of the saucer, just apart. So they unearth it, take it back, and then really from there on, it becomes a siege film, in which case you have this threat coming from both internal and exterior, and really it is, as far as the film goes, it is the monster, but a lot of other things are going on too. And the military, for one, it's amazing how the military here is put on such a high pedestal as far as its goodness, but then yet the scientists are all about, they just want to unearth this thing and really let this thing loose. Now, you'll have divisions and some minor subdivisions within the group of scientists as the film unravels, and where, things become just a little bit more complicated. It's not simply just, the good guys versus the bad guys or anything like that. But there's a lot going on, a lot of Cold War politics, symbolism, just a lot of sort of tapping into Campbell's novel as much as they can, which really, I have to stress, it is a very, very, very loose interpretation. We will not see a good interpretation of this source material until John Carpenter will give us this film in 1982. But this film, there's a scene early on when they first get to the North Pole, to the research station, and the news reporter happens to mention that, reminds him of his old Kentucky home. And this film, I think the reason why I love this film so much is it reminds me of a home of sorts. I mean, it's so easy to fall in line with the characters, to like the characters. I don't know if there's a character in this entire film that's not likable. I mean, it's just an overall enjoyable film that you can watch from start to finish, as long as you're going knowing that you're not getting, a great interpretation of John C. Campbell's Who Goes There. But it is, it's a favorite of mine from the 50s. I have probably, I don't know if we can hear the music or not, but I've got it on. I have seen this movie, I mean, time after time after time. I've seen the colored edition. I really don't like that. I've heard John Carpenter's commentary. He studied this film while he was at college, and so he's just got a lot to unpack with this film, and I know our time is short. But if you've never seen The Thing for Another World, or perhaps you have, but you're unaware of John's commentary on the UK edition, then Amazon UK, go check it out. Find it. I haven't looked in a while. It is a 2-disc edition. And it says featuring a commentary by horror maestro John Carpenter. He says at the beginning that he not only searched this opportunity out, he paid a lot of money to be on it. And so there's just an absolute wealth of information to glean from this. But find it. It's great. Again, it's a great snow movie. If you're a fan of snow movies, and the winter, of course, is slowly but surely it's coming on. And it's a great snow film. It's a great 50s classic monster film. It's a great way of approaching the original story in a very, very unique way. I love John Carpenter's film in terms of its interpretation of the source material ahead of this, but in terms of this being its own film, knowing full well it's a loose interpretation, God, I love this film, man. This film's awesome. It is awesome. And I'm almost positive, no, I am positive, there's a Blu-ray edition that is coming out soon. But if you want John Carpenter's commentary, then you need to get on Amazon UK, or you need to get region free, and you need to get this. This is great. So I don't know what else I can say. I think I've shared just about a little bit of everything. I hope the time isn't too long. This is my first review. I hope it wasn't too bad, but I do love this film. And if you haven't spent a lot of time, or maybe just a little bit of time with this, I encourage you, really get into this film. And maybe with John Carpenter's help. It's great. It's a great piece. So I guess we'll just end there. Again, this is Rob from Georgia, and one of your new members on Body Bags, your Wednesday night reviewer. And I look forward the time that I'll have from here on out. And as I usually say on my videos, or at least back in the day, go Bills.